like honestly, I compare Raw to WWE or an AEW, like just that TV
Hmm.
style. You know what I mean? Like the production is immaculate. Um, and they were live also that night.
Yeah.
Ladies Night Out was live. It's always live when they do it, but it's like, man, like again, it's that pinch me in my hair kind of thing. It's
It's time for Wrestling for the Culture, where we take a look inside to see what the wrestlers of color have been doing this week. They say if you find one good friend in wrestling, you did well. I've been fortunate enough to find one, and that's Amber Rodriguez, my guest on this episode of Wrestling for the Culture. So I had an opportunity, as I said on previous episodes of Break It Down with Brian H., I had an opportunity to go see Amber wrestle down in a town outside of New Orleans this past January. It's the first time I got a chance to see her since 2013. And this was also the first time I've seen her since she's returned to the ring. So this week, she comes on to discuss how things have been since she's returned. You know, she's been on the show leading up to her return, but now she's got quite a few matches and had some big moments, including Reality of Wrestling and Elevate Pro. So she comes on to talk about that and so much more. So, ladies and gentlemen, here's my interview with Amber Rodriguez. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as promised, I'm bringing back my good friend. She's the first three-time participant, three-time guest on Wrestling for the Culture, and probably as the wrestling realm as a whole. Was this probably your fifth or sixth time,
look at
Amber?
us making history.
Yeah, I know, right? So Amber Rodriguez on the line. Amber, how you feeling today?
I'm good. I'm good. What's going on with you?
Man, well, unfortunately, at the time we were talking, we just found out news about the NBA being suspended for the rest of the season. And ironically, the last time we saw each other was the day before Kobe Bryant died, unfortunately.
Man, I just realized that. That is crazy.
So,
And yeah, like the whole NBA thing, like my husband's really pissed about that. I mean, I don't follow sports outside of sports entertainment. So
mhm.
I'm like, oh no, that's
Yeah, tell I said hi. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know if I was supposed to say his name. I can edit it out. Tell you.
Yo,
Yeah.
because so many weird, like creepy people are starting to add him. I'm like,
Oh man.
yeah.
Well, yeah, but so like I was sitting there thinking, I said, the night. So going back, and we'll get into the interview in a second, but for those who do not know, I went to Amber's show at Elevate Pro back in was that January. Like I said, it was the day
Mhm.
before Kobe died. And I remember sitting there waiting for your match. And I was sitting there with my manager, shout out to Marin, was sitting there right before your match. Maybe it was like the opening match. And it came across my phone. LeBron James passes Kobe Bryant for like on the scoring list. And I remember thinking, like news breaks, you know how it is in wrestling. You see something,
Yeah.
you want to reach over to the next person. So I remember thinking, "Oh snap, this just happened. I'm about to tell Marin." Then I was like, "She don't care." So that's when I was like, "Okay." So no, I'm not gonna say nothing. But I just remembered then, obviously, unfortunately, the next morning, we got the next afternoon, we found out about Kobe. So, I was just thinking about that, and it's just like wow.
Yeah.
And then here we go again talking less than what about 6 weeks later, and then boom, we found out about the NBA.
Yeah, that's so crazy. The whole Kobe Bryant thing. Like I said, I don't really follow sports, but of course I knew of him.
Mhm.
And just his impact on the world. I mean, not just us as a nation, but just all over. And
Mhm.
it was just really devastating. I mean, not just all the lives that were lost in that crash. The whole thing was just unfortunate. honestly. And it just shows, like, I know it's kind of cliche, but it just shows that, life really is too short, you know.
Yeah, and it's just it's like I said, it's definitely a sad situation, and our condolences go out to the families of everybody affected. Definitely, and our families go out to the families affected by this coronavirus, COVID-19. Um, but
Man.
but let's
I'm gonna
let's shift
laugh at
this.
that. It's like really serious, but
I know what you mean, but yeah, let's
yeah.
shift to some positive things. Um, so the last time we talked, you were getting ready to resume your career. We talked about, you know, you kind
How
of getting the
crazy
flow of
is
things.
this? Like,
I
I don't
know.
mean to cut you off, but just like, how crazy is this? Like, the last time we were talking, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be back soon. I'm gonna have my first match, and now it's like a matter of weeks later, and I'm like, I've done like so much in such a short amount of time, and I'm not even scratching the surface yet. Like, there's so many really big things coming that I can't even like talk about right now, but this is crazy, man. Like, what is life right now?
I know, right? So, how did it feel when you first got back in the ring? Like, did it
When
take you a while to get, huh?
no, I was just piggybacking off of what you said. When I first got back, like, just the butterfly, like, that's actually the first thing I said. I was like, man, I don't miss this feeling. Like, the feeling I get when I'm in Gorilla, when I'm about to break curtain, is just like, I literally feel sick. Like,
Really?
because my nerves are so bad. My nerves are so bad, and I'm like, I don't want to screw up. You know what I mean? I'm like, man, is this gonna be the night I freaking forget everything or get hurt or like, you know what I mean? So it's just so many nerves. But the second I walk through that curtain and I'm Amber Rodriguez and I just turn it on and everything just goes away. Like, that feeling just, it's like magic. It just goes away the second I walk through the curtain. It's like it's like stepping into another world. Like, that's the best thing I can like compare it to. It's literally like you step through that curtain and you enter a whole nother world, and you're just like in another dimension, and you're just in the zone, and like nothing else matters besides like, I'm gonna make this moment. Like, this is my time, you know.
Mm-hmm. Now, who was your first match back against?
So my first match back was at Diamond Championship Wrestling. It was against this guy named the Matador, which I had started training. Let me back up. So I had mentioned this in the last interview when I
Mhm.
first decided, okay, I'm going to do this again. I'm going to wrestle again, like, for sure this time. I was deployed in California, and I was training over at Big Time Wrestling. Big shout out to Kirk White, and thank you for all the guys over there, by the way, for welcoming me with open arms and just taking that chance on me and giving me a place to shed this ring rust. But yeah, so first I was training over there with a guy named Ricardo, who had wrestled in Mexico for like the past 20 years. And he was just so great, and I miss that guy so much. Like, I tell everybody, like, I wish he was on some type of social media, but he isn't. But that guy brought me back to life. I mean, really. Um, he really dusted me off. And then when I had finished my deployment in Cali, that's when I found out I was getting stationed in Mobile, Alabama. I got orders to Mobile, and so I sought out a local school, and got connected with a man named Gene Miller, who's another vet in the business, and he has his own school, the Diamond Mine, and same thing, welcomed me with open arms, helped me work out all the kinks. And the guy that I wrestled my first match back was, another uh trainer there. He had like a trainer type of role. And yeah, it was just really great to just work with somebody I was comfortable with, I had been training with, just to work all the kinks out and get the rust off, and I was really just going with the flow, and then it went from that to working in Texas to even Elevate, just new heights.
Well, no, one of the things that I noticed about we'll shift over to Elevate Pro.
Yeah.
Um, so Brittany, she's the promoter, right?
Yes.
Is that correct? Now, it's been Women's International Month. I, I'm always a women's wrestler supporter. I support, women in all lines of work. I'm fortunate
Yeah.
to work with one of the best women leaders in the world, I say. And I'll put that out there on the show who you met. Um, how was it and when you saw her like working for her at that show and in general? And was this your
So
first time
first of
working under a
all,
women's promoter?
yeah, it was my first time working under a female promoter, and first of all, like, kudos to her, man. Like, I have so much love and respect for that woman. Just, dealing with all the crap she gets from, how the guys are. Like, we've been around it. Um,
Mhm.
and, just for her, putting up with that and just like sticking to her guns and doing her thing. And she's so professional and so great to work with and so insightful on the business, because that's one thing about our business. It's like, for someone who doesn't really have that in-ring competitor role, but is still very knowledgeable. I mean, this woman goes to seminars and takes notes and just soaks up all the knowledge she can, and I just have so much respect and appreciation for that. Um, but yeah, Elevate Pro was great. They run a tight ship there, and I mean that in a good way. Very professional locker room, very comfortable locker room. I felt at home there, and Elevate is honestly becoming like a home for me. So I'm really excited for what they have in store for me in the future.
Now, you know me, I'm always gonna say something and you
Yeah.
don't have to you don't have to necessarily respond to prevent you
What's
from
up?
getting heat to you getting heat, or you don't have to feel this way, but I'm just going to say my personal observation, and that is that when you left Elevate Pro, I saw you had a glow of happiness, and
Yeah.
one where it was like, and obviously you were happy because your husband was there, and we all hung out afterwards. You had friends and family
Because
there,
their
but
brother was there.
but it was like, yeah, and you could tell you was having fun in your match. One of the things I did notice too was during the match, your confidence level. Now you've always been confident, but I watched you and I was like, you went out there and owned it, and you didn't look like you had took off a few years. You follow me? So that was the
Yeah.
one thing I noticed that I could appreciate from you being my sister. That hey, you really like own that and you really feel comfortable there. So shout out to Elevate Pro.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like that, I can't say enough good things about that company. Like, just the way they're taking me in, and yeah, like that night. Honestly, it's so crazy. How, like, I believe in God, and I believe He aligns things for a reason, and He allows things to happen for a reason. And I believe in signs, and it's crazy that that show was named From the Ashes, because that's exactly how I felt and still feel.
Mhm.
Like, just like I hashtag everything, like in everything I post, I hashtag rebuilt, because that's what I believe I am. I believe I'm rebuilt. I was taken apart back in 2015, and here in 2020, I'm put back together and better than before. It's a fresh start, and I'm kicking ass and taking names. You know what I mean? And that match in particular, and shout out to Dale Springs, by the way. I mean, that man, he's a true gentleman, a great competitor, very professional, very fun to work with. He's gonna go places. But that match, oh my gosh, it was so fun. And I think I told you that night I never did a dive before. That was my first time doing a dive. So you mentioned confidence, like that should tell you how confident I was feeling, or crazy. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. So now, before we get into, the big one at Reality of Wrestling, what have been some other promotions and cities that you've been enjoying working in?
Hurricane Pro, definitely in Beaumont, Texas. They run out of the Ford arena, and it was like my first time. Was it my first time? I would say it was my first time. I would say it was my first time in a long time working in an actual like arena. It was really nice. Everyone was very professional there, and it was an all women show, and everyone on the card killed it. Um, where else? Oh, of course, with Texas Wrestling Entertainment with Rudy Gonzalez. Even meeting him and making his acquaintance and being able to reach out to him for advice and feedback and stuff like that. It's just been great. So that's definitely another one, and of course I got to throw Elevate in there. But yeah, and then you mentioned Roe.
Hmm. So what was that experience like? You go to Row, um, and this is, I mean, you're working with a Hall of Famer in a sense, Booker T. This is under his name, his umbrella. Obviously, he's seen you before at MCW, but what was it like to, kind of reconnect with him and be on that show?
So funny thing, he actually wasn't there.
Go
Um,
figure.
yeah, he
I
wasn't
prepared
there.
all this
But
question, and you didn't say like, no, he wasn't there. You could have prepped me.
yeah. But I know he's got like, a million other things going on, but yeah, it was a small letdown that he wasn't there. But, just being there, just, to be booked there. It was an honor, honestly. And his right hand man, Kevin Bernhardt was there, so that was great. To get to talk to him and, put a name to a face and formally introduce myself to him was great. Um, there was two shows. There was the matinee show and the evening show for Ladies Night Out, and everybody on the card just like left it all in the ring. Like it was great. It was a great show. Both shows were great. Um, both matches, it was great because I got to wrestle, two girls that I had been watching for a while, but hadn't gotten a chance to share the ring with until then, being
Hmm.
Micah Madrid and Vanity. Um, Shout out to both those women. But yeah, man, just being there and just taking it all in, it was just like somebody pinch me kind of moment. You know what I mean? Even before the show got started, they were testing out my music, and like I think I took a picture of them like testing out the pictures and everything, and I like my face was on the screen. I'm like, this is crazy, like, because I had been trying to work here like since I was like 18, and here I am now, and it's just it's wonderful. And I say all that to say, like don't let the feeling of, oh, this isn't gonna happen for me, or oh, like it's been so long. Like I literally left and came back and now it's like I feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be, and I'm on my way to even further height. And I feel so much more positive about my career than I did the first time. So I say all that to say, like, just, don't let that adversity hold you back. Like, if you stray off of your dreams or your path to, where it is that you want to be, like, don't let that be the deciding factor. You know what I mean? Like, in the end, if it's meant to be, you'll get it.
Now, you brought up how your career, you feel like, everything's aligning.
Yeah.
Do, in your opinion, does row happen if you are on the East Coast as opposed to being in the South?
Honestly, like, I just feel like being in the South, I'm closer to a lot of opportunities that I wasn't as close to before. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, I don't mean like so much in the literal sense, like it's just a closer drive. I mean, that definitely plays a part, but, um, it's just, man, it's just so crazy how everything just aligned the way it did this time around. Like with me being in the South, me getting a lot of Southern base promotions to book me that before, it didn't really work out, or there were plans, but it fell through, and now it's all coming together. So and another thing, to add to that, I do feel like being in the South, it's just another kind of wrestling here, if that makes any sense. It's like another vibe, like everything from the locker room to the crowd. It's just like a whole another world here when it comes to wrestling.
Can you explain the difference? Like, can you explain that vibe? Is
So
it
I'm trying to say this without sounding negative. So like in the East Coast, right? So like as far as the locker rooms go, you know, um, I don't know. It's just everyone's a lot more humble here.
mm-hmm.
Like just everyone's a lot more humble here, and everyone's like more so willing to help the next person instead of like, they may steal my spot. And I don't mean to ruffle any feathers when I say that. That's just a personal observation. Others may disagree, and that's fine. It's just a personal observation. And that's not to, diminish anything on the East Coast. I love the East Coast. I'd love to go back as soon as possible. I love it over there. But like I said, it's just a personal observation. There are definitely um it just seems like a lot more humility is inbred in folks around here than it is over there. And then as far as the crowds go, I feel like there's more of a appreciation for
Mm-hmm.
wrestling here down south than there is in the East Coast. Um, and again, others may disagree, and that's fine. It's just personal observation because I feel like on the East Coast, like you have a totally different standard of wrestling. Like here down south, like okay, let's say like here in like Mississippi,
Mm-hmm.
you can do a freaking headlock takeover and fans will go crazy, right?
Oh wow. Okay.
Whereas you do a headlock takeover in Brooklyn and they're like, okay, what's next? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like there's just a different type of appreciation, and you can definitely work more. That's why I feel like more in the South, it's more of an old school vibe, because you can work a lot at a lot slower pace, or you can work a lot slower, and you'll still get the oohs and ahs, versus Spanish flag, Canadian destroyer through a burning table.
So now when did you notice that though? Like, did you try like one of the hot spot moves, or did you kind of observe other workers?
Yeah, it's definitely the latter. I observe through other workers. Um, I always watch matches before mine, not just to see if I don't want to break the fourth wall too much, but like,
I know what you mean.
yeah. But also to see, the crowd's reaction. Like, how do they react to things that are more on the simpler side, and how do they react to the high spots? You know what I mean? And just watching these southern crowds, they're honestly like really into like simple things, or like old school things. And I don't mean old school as in like in a bad way, like just going like super slow and not doing too much. That definitely plays a role, but also just things that you don't really see nowadays that were more so popular like in the 80s, you know. And I can talk a mile a minute about that, but I'm not going to do that. Just gonna sum it up and say they're just I noticed from, other matches that okay, they seem to be a lot more appreciative of this, this old school kind of style, or, slower paced style.
Now, I want to get back to Roro really quick. What was it
Yeah.
like when you went on YouTube and saw that, and you saw, like, you talked about the presentation, you talked about seeing your name. Obviously, it's not the first show you've been to where you saw your name, or the first time you watched yourself on a the first time you watched yourself on video. But I know as a producer myself, that was one of the things that I had noticed that I liked about the show, was how it was produced. And I remember talking to Kiara Hogan a few years ago, and we was like talking about like just the way they produced their show. What was your thoughts when you went back and saw yourself on a show produced that well?
It was like honestly, I compare Raw to WWE or an AEW, like just that TV
Hmm.
style. You know what I mean? Like the production is immaculate. Um, and they were live also that night.
Yeah.
Ladies Night Out was live. It's always live when they do it, but it's like, man, like again, it's that pinch me in my hair kind of thing. It's it's that time to definitely step it up, and it's like it's just man, I can't even I can't even sum it up into words. Like I think the best thing I said about it was the next day I posted on Twitter, and I was like, man, last night was a dream. Like it was literally a dream. Um Everything, like you said, from the production and just how professional it's set up, and it's set up like TV, and you learn so much more that way. You learn so much more about just different angles and so many things that you wouldn't get from, your average indie show.
Hmm.
Um, and even from the vets backstage, like Sue Young and Jordan Grace, who are back there, like giving advice, and they're just it was great. It was great. It was wonderful.
Those are two of my favorite people to work with at WSU.
Yeah.
Um, and to see to see you name them as veterans is like, wow, it just shows how far they've come along. You know,
Yeah, and it's crazy because actually me and Sue Young, I remember sending her like me and Nyla's matches, and me and Nyla, would be on the phone with her like, "Hey, what'd you think of this?" You know what I mean? And it's like to be here, actually sharing a locker room with her, and it's like, man, it's just crazy how things come full circle, and um, it's funny again because this was like the second locker room that we actually shared together, and it's just crazy how this business can like introduce you to people, and you don't really share locker rooms with them that often, you know. But yeah, was great. They were wonderful to share a locker room with. It's just the advice that they had to offer, and even their match that night was great.
Yeah, I can imagine. Now,
Yeah.
moving forward, what are some things that you can reveal that you see coming up next for Amber Rodriguez?
There's a couple of things I'm really excited about that I can't talk about.
Okay.
And it's like eating at me. But let's just say some really great things. Um oh man, I really wish I could talk about it.
Well, we'll shift gears then. Let's talk about your promo videos because it seems like now
Yeah.
it seems like you're making a new one every almost before every show. How long did it take you to like really develop that confidence to, you jumping back into it? You stepped away for 4 years and before you left, obviously you could cut promos, but now, going out there and having that confidence to put this stuff online and do it again and jumping right back to it. How long did it really take you to get confident to do that?
So, truth be told, I'm still getting confident. Like I'm confident, but I'm still like building it even more. Like, okay, I got this. Like, I know what I'm doing. I've been doing this. I got this. This is nothing to me. Like just, hyping myself up like that. But I gotta give a shout out to Black Cheese. Because the first time around, I remember I used to study that man's promos, right? I mean, since I was
Shout out to
15, I was like,
G's, man.
yes, yes. And I was like studying his promos. And so I remember, I think I was like 18 or 19, I want to say. I was working for Bombshells at Pro Wrestling Syndicate. And I sent it to him. And I was like, hey, what do you think of this? Like, I was so shy and nervous, right? Because, like, this is the man, like, I've been, like, wanting to model my promos after. And now I'm sending him one, you know. And he liked it. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I felt so good about myself. Like, all right, like, I got this now. And I had, like, such confidence about promos from that point. And, just getting advice from him on them. And also, Drolic, shout out to him as well. Like, that's my brother, and having his, like, approval, I guess I'll say as well. It was just like, okay, like I got this. I'm good at this. I can do this. And so coming back and doing it again, I think G's even said a couple of times, like, oh, just one promo from her and it'll be good, or something along those lines. He said, I'm like, man, it's like having big shoes to fill, but it's you. You know what I mean? It's like, will I be like that 2013, 14, 15 me? Will I deliver those classic Amber Rodriguez promos? And the truth is, yeah, I'll deliver that and then some, because now I'm a lot more evolved and I'm a lot more comfortable with myself, and I'm a woman now. Like, I just feel like at that time, like, yeah, I was an adult, but I was, I started this stuff when I was 15 and then till 21, and it's like I was still so immature, you know what I mean? And now it's like I just feel like I've been through so much, and I just feel like more of a brick wall now. Like, I know what I bring to the table, and you can't tell me otherwise. I know what I bring to the table. I know who I am. I'm confident in who I am, and there's only going up from here for me. And I know that, and I deliver that every single time. So, yeah.
Now, how often do you go back and look at the old stuff?
I do it whenever I like want to put something out that's like, okay, I'm trying to like explain this as like simple as I can, because like in my mind it's like one thing. So, when I'm looking for inspiration, I look back at my old stuff to get that inspiration. Like, okay, how can I do this today, but in a more evolved way, in a full circle type of way? Or how can I like put this in, today's promo, and it's not like, oh, she's done that before. It's more of a grown up version of it, So like there's that, and then, even some of my old matches, I watch my old matches, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, I used to do this. How can I make it more polished, or, oh, why don't I add this to it now and, make it stand out even more? So to answer your question, I look at my old stuff all the time, from my matches to my promos, like just to get inspiration, or how can I tie that into who I have become and, still deliver it in a grown up kind of way, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Like just even like little details that you wouldn't normally, like the average person would overlook, but for me it's like a tip of the hat, because like, okay, so one promo I had made for Kobe Pro when I was facing Jessie Bell, I had on these Timbs, right, like these butter, I call them butters, these butter Timberlands, and I did another promo for Elevate Pro, and I had on these butter Timbs, but they were high heels, the heel Timbs. And so just little tiny details like that, to me, is like, okay, how can I do something I did before, but make it more grown up, more evolved, more progressed, rebuilt? This is who I am now, and still that me, but I have that and then some.
Well, that's good. That's awesome. Now, how does your daughter take to watching your matches? And so let me give you a quick story. Well, we told you this, but I'll tell the people. We're sitting there at the show, and the opening match, you had somebody who you had like family members in the crowd. So you had children who's a little bit older than your daughter, and they started crying because their uncle was getting beat up. So have you broken kayfabe with your baby yet? And if not, how does she take it when she watches your
Hello?
matches? Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, you had cut out.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I said
I heard broken,
y-
and that was it.
yeah, kayfabe. I said, have you broken kayfabe with your daughter yet? I was making sure they didn't censor the word. But
Okay.
but have you watched have she watched your matches? And if she does, how does she take to it?
So here's the thing. So Elmo is so over to my daughter. Like, she loves Elmo, right? And so, like, anything other than that, she's just not feeling it. So I remember, like, I brought this kid with me to train, like, to see me train. Like, hey, this is what mom does sometimes. And she's just crying, like, I want to watch Elmo, I want to watch Sesame Street, right? And like, she's just like not caring about where I am or what I'm doing. She's like, I want to watch my show. So I'm at training, and there's also some students at the Diamond Mine that I mentor. But yeah, I'm doing my thing, and she's just off on her phone watching her Sesame Street, so uninterested in what I'm doing, right? So I'm like, maybe it's just the training thing, right? So she comes to the live shows too. Same deal. She's just like, I'm not like interested in this. Like, she's just on the phone, or crying because she just wants me to sit with her the whole time and not do anything else,
Man.
and then, but on TV, like, I'll stream my matches, from IWTV or, wherever. I'll stream it on the big screen, and she's like, oh, mommy's wrestling, and she gets it. It's cool. But, like, in person, she just does not care. Like, it's weird.
So she's more of a fan of watching you on TV, but when she's at the show, it's like, okay.
Yeah, and even on TV, it's like, oh, that's mommy, that's cool. And then, like, literally 3 seconds later, she's like, okay, I'm ready for Elmo. Like,
Now, how about
I'm gonna try to make her a fan.
you said you are?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to make her a fan for sure.
How about your husband? Does he boo you sometimes to be funny?
No, he does. Like, okay, so here's the thing with him. Like, it's so funny how okay, so I look at like Nyla, right, and her family, like her wife is like, you know, super into wrestling, and her son is like so into wrestling. That's my god baby, by the way. I love Will Zander, but he's so into wrestling, right? And it's like my family, like my husband's not a wrestling fan, my daughter's not a wrestling fan. I'm like the only one. Um, but yeah, no, as far as my husband goes, like he's not into it, but he's into me and what I do. You know, he supports it for me, if that makes sense. Like,
Hmm.
and I love him so much for that because he's not that type that like loved wrestling and grew up watching it, and like, you know, he's not that type. But when I expressed to him like, hey, you know, this is what I did before I met you, and showed him stuff, and you know, hey, I want to get back into this. And when he saw my passion and my dedication for it, you know, he helps me out in the gym. And my husband's also a chef, so I'm a little spoiled, but he's a chef, and he, you know, he's big on like nutrition and, you know, just making sure I have the right um you know, foods for my body, and that I'm always looking my best. You know, so he really just transformed himself into, you know, someone who's just going to help me as much as he can. And you know, he studies it. He studies it for me. You know, like we're on the road. That's another thing. We travel together. He comes to all my shows. You know, he's my merch guy. You know, he's my personal trainer. He's my nutritionist and all this stuff. And he helps me out so much, and he studies it. He watches wrestling for me. Like he you know, he'll come to me like, hey, I think you should do this, or hey, I think this looks good, or hey, when you did that, I don't think they reacted like you wanted them to. You know what I mean? Like he becomes
Hmm.
that person like for me to help me out and to see me get better. He wants me to get better and to be the best at it, and I appreciate him for that so much, for being that
Yeah.
support system.
I mean, to me, he seemed like he's enjoying it, and obviously, like, so I'm watching from afar, but he seemed like he enjoying it. It seemed like, we obviously he and I talk, and I can say, like, I can tell just in a conversation, one-on-one conversation him and I had, that he's like super excited for you, and, just super excited that you're back into it because he can look and see how much it makes you happy.
Yeah, and I appreciate him so much for that, man. It's like if he were to up and just decide he's going to become a football player, right? Like I hate football. I don't like anything about it. But I'd look at it for him,
Used to
you
be a
know, and like I
Giants
want
fan,
to.
though.
Yeah, I am, but
But
I'm not like as deep into it. You know what I mean? But I look at it for him, you know, and so that's like what he does for me. You know, it's not really his thing, but he looks at it for me, and he watches video study with me when I do it, and when I'm taking my notes. It's like, oh, did you see this? You know, and it is crazy to see him do that because, like, oh, okay, I thought you weren't into this, but here we go. You know, so it's nice to see. Like we were on the road to TWE this past Saturday to San Antonio, and we're watching Bruiser Brody's documentary, and he was so into it, and it's just watch. He's going to be a wrestling connoisseur by the end of this year.
hmm
Mark my words.
okay. Hey, I would definitely love to see that. Well, before I let you go, any final thoughts?
I'm just so excited for the future and for these things I can't talk about right now. But there's some really big things on the table. Just just watch TV.
Yeah.
um, Follow me on Instagram at Amber1Rodriguez, and on. Oh, I'm sorry, I got that
That's
totally
your Twitter. Gosh. Goodness
It's really
gracious.
late. That's you can edit that. That's my Twitter.
Nope. I'm gonna leave it in because it's funny.
That's fine. And I'm like that anyway. It's not just because I'm tired. I'm just an awkward person. But yeah, so follow me on Twitter at Amber One Rodriguez. Follow me on Instagram at La Reina Renegada and Facebook under Amber Rodriguez. And you can at my fan page at Official Amber Rodriguez. Yay! I got it right.
Awesome. Well, Amber, I definitely appreciate you coming on board. As always, like I tell you before, I'm proud of you. I'm super excited for everything that's coming. I'm gonna be sitting here cheering you on, and tell the family I said hi.
Yeah, of course.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed that. Make sure you subscribe to the Wrestling Realm on all social media platforms. Simply go on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and of course YouTube to subscribe. Until the next time, I'm Brian H. Waters. So long, everybody.